The city was alive with its usual morning rush, horns blaring, people chasing deadlines, and a sun that peeked shyly through glass towers. But amidst that polished chaos sat a man who owned half the skyline. Ethan Miles, the billionaire who could buy anything he wanted, except perhaps peace. On this particular day, dressed in a plain jacket and worn-out jeans, he parked an old rental car outside a small downtown restaurant called Mara's Dine. No one would recognize him there. No reporters, no board members, no shallow smiles. Just ordinary people, the kind he hadn't been in a long time. And that was exactly what he needed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of simple human connection, then pause for a moment, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Because this story might remind you that even the richest lives can be empty, until one small act changes everything. Ethan had spent years building an empire, tech, real estate, philanthropy, and endless meetings that blurred one into another. Yet, behind every success headline, he felt something slipping, the laughter of friends who left, the warmth of family that faded, the humanity he once understood. His days were a parade of yes men, polite applause, and a loneliness that money could never buy away. After a sleepless night and a board meeting that felt like a cage, he decided to disappear for a day, no driver, no assistant, no luxury. Just him. Mara's Dine was small but alive. The soft hum of jazz filled the room. The walls were lined with photos of smiling customers, the kind that made you feel like life was simple and good. He sat by the window, where sunlight kissed the white tablecloth. The smell of grilled steak and butter floated through the air, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt calm. A young waitress approached his table, carrying a genuine smile, not the kind trained by hotels, but one born from sincerity. Her name tag read Lila. Her hair was tied neatly, though a few strands fell over her face as she handed him the menu. Her voice was soft but tired, like someone who smiled more than she should have too. Ethan ordered a steak, medium rare, and watched her walk away, balancing trays with grace despite the rush. As he waited, he noticed things he hadn't in years. The couple laughing in the corner, a mother helping her child cut pancakes, an old man reading the newspaper as if time moved slower just for him. There was something sacred about ordinary life, something Ethan had forgotten in the noise of wealth and ambition. When Lila returned with his steak, he thanked her, and she smiled again, though her eyes flickered with something else, worry, maybe pain. He tried not to intrude, but the human instinct in him, long buried under corporate layers, stirred. She was polite but distant, moving quickly between tables, her hands trembling slightly every time she scribbled an order. Ethan took his first bite of steak, perfectly cooked, and for the first time, food tasted like more than fuel. It felt like a memory of the small diner his mother used to take him to before life became complicated. He watched Lila again, the way she rubbed her wrist as if it hurt, the way her eyes followed the clock, and how her smile faltered when she thought no one was watching. When he finished, she brought him the bill. "Thank you for dining with us," she said softly, sliding the paper onto his table. But as she did, something unexpected happened. Along with the bill, she slipped a folded note, her fingers shaking slightly. Ethan looked up, confused, but she quickly turned away, heading back to the counter as if nothing had happened. Curiosity burned through him. He unfolded the note under the table, expecting maybe a customer survey or a misplaced memo. But the handwriting was rushed, emotional. It read, "If you are kind, please don't ignore this. My little brother is sick. I'm working double shifts to pay for his treatment. But today, my manager said I'll be fired if I'm late again. I'm out of options. I don't need pity, just a chance." Ethan froze. The words hit him harder than he expected. The simplicity, the desperation, it cut through his expensive armor. He looked up again at Lila, who was wiping a table near the window, pretending everything was fine. He wanted to stand, to ask, to help, but something held him still. For once, the billionaire didn't know what to say. He left cash far beyond the bill, not to flaunt wealth, but because in that moment, money felt smaller than empathy. But as he stood to leave, something made him stop. The manager, a tall man in a black suit, was scolding Lila near the counter. His voice was low but sharp, and she was holding back tears. Ethan could see it, the exhaustion, the humiliation, the quiet breaking point. He walked out without saying a word. But that night, he couldn't sleep. The note replayed in his mind again and again. He thought about his own past, his mother working late shifts after his father died, her hands cracked from washing dishes, her eyes tired but full of love. He thought about how one kind stranger once helped them when they had nothing. Maybe that was where his journey truly began, not with ambition, but with kindness. The next morning, Ethan returned to Mara's dine, not as the quiet customer in a worn jacket, but as the man the world knew. The restaurant was bustling again. Lila saw him, her eyes widening in disbelief. She almost dropped her tray when she realized who he was. But Ethan smiled gently and asked to see the manager. Within minutes, everything changed. He spoke calmly, respectfully, but with authority. He asked about Lila's employment, her record, and the manager's behavior. Then, to everyone's shock, he announced that he would be buying Mara's dine. "No one here will lose their job," he said softly. "Especially not the people who keep this place kind." Lila stood frozen, tears filling her eyes. When Ethan handed her a letter of employment and offered to cover her brother's treatment, she broke down completely. She couldn't find words, only gratitude that came out in sobs. Ethan didn't want thanks, he just smiled and said, "You gave me something, too," a reminder that even the smallest act of courage can awaken something human in someone who forgot how to feel. Days later, the diner flourished under its new ownership. Employees were paid fairly, customers felt warmth in every corner, and Lila's brother slowly recovered. And Ethan, though he returned to his company, was never quite the same. He visited often, sitting by the same window, ordering the same steak, now not as a billionaire seeking escape, but as a man who'd found purpose again. Sometimes, the richest moment in life isn't about earning, it's about feeling. And sometimes, the person you help ends up saving you in ways you never expected. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Let's fill the world with more stories that remind us that kindness still exists, even in the most unexpected places. And before you go, comment below. Backhand index pointing right, I believe in kindness and second chances. Because one small act, one note, one moment, can truly change everything. Months later, Daniel met Anna again, this time at a charity dinner, but now she wasn't serving tables, she was managing the event. Her eyes still held the same kindness, but now with confidence. They smiled at each other, not with romance, but with deep, mutual respect. She had reminded him of humanity when he was about to lose faith in it. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Every click helps us spread real stories that remind people of the power of compassion, courage, and doing the right thing, even when it's dangerous. And before you go, tell us in the comments, would you have trusted the waitress, or stayed to find out the truth? Because sometimes, life gives you one quiet whisper, a warning that can save everything you are. And if you're lucky enough to hear it, you must have the courage to run before it's too late.